Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Connecting Life podcast. I'm your host, Dianaboskma. I'm here to help you connect the dots of life so that you can live your best life in a healthy and fulfilling way. Today, I'm talking with Kerrie Hitchen, and she's an amazing life coach and hairdresser. Would you please tell us a little bit more about yourself, Kerrie?
Oh, good morning, Diana. Thank you for inviting me to do this. Well, what else can I say? Life coach and hairdresser, that's two things that take up so much of my time, and um, two professions which I love. Hairdressing has been something I've done like since I was 16 years old, so over 40 years of hairdressing. I'm still there in the chair doing it. And then more recently, in the last few years, branched out into life coaching, which it's kind of, I guess, has been doing a little bit unofficially whilst being a hairdresser, especially because where I am is a one-to-one basis continually. So there's no distractions, nobody else around, because I work for myself. So it's nice to have that one-to-one Zen experience, really, because that's how my clients kind of describe it. You know, they come in and it's like, oh, now it's time for me, and they can just like get lost in it for an hour. And it's nice to have that feeling when it's nice. I can give them that feeling, and things come out when you're relaxing. Things come out, and you start talking. And then I always say, what happens in the salon stays in the salon. Um, so yeah, hobby-wise, I also play the ukulele, which is a really fun thing to be doing, and I don't get a chance to do that often enough, but I do enjoy it, and have the odd gig here and there, which is quite
Nice.
interesting too. And in between that, a big part of my life also is art. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. So, Kerrie and I will have a conversation about the use of art and creativity and well-being today. So that's where
Mm.
the art part really comes in. So can you tell us a little bit about how art has helped you in your well-being?
Yes, I can. I guess art has been with me all my life. My dad was an artist in his work, so I guess it's come through. My brothers both artistic, and I guess it just kind of was in the family, and I sort of grew up with it, so really didn't appreciate it because it's just something I did. So I guess because I was brought up there, I didn't really see the benefit of it, of
Hmm.
how it could affect your well-being. Um, but I did notice it later in life, in times of trouble, and break. Just as an example, in my own experience, I happened to go through a divorce, and at the time I was going through that, I found art was a really good way of me just being able to. It seemed to be the only thing I could do that kind of
Hmm.
shut everything else out,
Yeah.
giving my brain that space. Because anybody that's been through anything traumatic like that, uh, your head is full all the time. It's all this
Yeah.
spinning around in your head, and it seemed to be my only way of calming the clutter and not thinking about all that.
Hmm.
So I was doing that as a means of escapism at the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, moving on from that, and the more I did art, the the more I was healing from my traumas.
Hmm.
I was able to open up more through art and realize then how much it was really, really helping me. And I became a little bit more spiritual. I was tapping into my inner wisdom a little bit more, and I was starting to open up a lot more. And art actually helped me do that on a deeper level. It was my way of releasing, not just
Hmm.
not just escaping stuff, but actually releasing,
Yeah.
and not hanging on to it. So I would say in my own well-being, it's been quite integral
Yeah.
to my healing.
Yeah.
So yeah, quite profound really when I
Hmm.
now I realise that
Yeah.
and how much it has helped.
Yeah, I get that. I'm not so much a painter or things like that. So for me, my creativity is more in crochet and knitting and things like that. I also
Mm,
like spinning. And what I've realized is that when I get into a time where stress is higher, I do more of it, which
yeah.
results in plenty of pairs of socks and things like
Yeah.
that. But it really helps me to calm my mind down. because focusing on it, counting the stitches, looking at what the colors are doing, what the yarn's doing, because every yarn is different. Some yarns are variegated, some are not, and that all gives a different look to things, and different types of yarn, like cotton is very different than wool. So that always is just all different, and just feeling that, seeing that, has for me been very good. And yeah, at times it was more escapism than anything else, but it also helped me calm my mind down, and the calmer mind could do more in the rest of my time in this world than the stress that. So yeah,
exactly.
there have been people in my life, like my kids, when they see me get really stressed at some point, they have this thing, Mum, maybe you should knit a little bit, just because
They
they know
recognise that too.
Yep, they know it calms me down.
Yeah.
And they do themselves things with art, and some online, some do in the real world things, but there's always some form of that involved.
It's finding your thing that works for you. Like
Yep.
knitting is for you. That's your thing that works for you, and art is my thing that works for me. And it's really not about creating a masterpiece. It's about what it does for your well-being. It doesn't matter. It can look a mess on the canvas, or it doesn't have to like anything you'd ever wear as you're knitting. But I mean, it's the actual action of doing it. That's what it's all about, and just being able to give yourself enough space and time out to bring whatever emotions going back down to neutral. So then when things get back to neutral, they just don't seem as bad. And you can think a little bit more clearly and logically, because your emotion about that situation just settled down, and you can be a little bit more objective.
The moment emotions are high, you're not going to think objective. You're not going to be able to take decisions in a proper way. For that, you need to be in a much calmer place. And I also know some people where sports works. They go for a run to be able to think of something, or about something, not of something, about something. That's totally good as well, because as long as it works. And I think, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of wearing myself out to get my brain to chill out. I'd rather do that in a much calmer way, because when I'm really tired, I don't think that wonderfully either. So for me, doing things like knitting, crochet, whatever it is, it helps me really calm down and be able to just do the things.
You don't need to think too hard to do it. You haven't got to, you're focusing, but it's easy. You're doing something you love to do. You can do it. It's not going to, if I can do it, you can do it. And it's just so easy.
And even with that, when I think of people who don't think they can do any art, it's not actually about having skills. It's just about doing something that is fun. Because, when I was younger, I did the odd bit of watercolor painting. I've never been really good at it, but I found it fun to do. And in school, we learned how to do a bit of sculpting. I found that really cool to do as well, because we just got a lump of clay and then we made something out of it. It's total fun to do. It doesn't have to be great, but some of the things that I've made over the years, like I learned fashion designing in my late teens and loved it. Still use some of that. So the art thing is kind of in me as well, I guess, now that I think about it. And one of the drawings that I made, I have hanging in my living room simply because it turned out so well. That's the best drawing I've ever made, because I haven't really done much drawing. But that one, it was also this thing of, I created the time to do it, and I was in school, so it made it easier. So, it was in after secondary school when I was doing the fashion designing. And with the sculpting, I actually did that when my kids, when they were in school, they had a fair there, and one thing was about sculpting, and there were parents sitting in different places holding the fort to make sure that everybody got a chance and stuff like that, because the sculpting was only going to take about 15 minutes per kid. But it was cool to do. So I was just at times where there was nobody there, would make my own. And then at some point I had this thing, wait, this is like this because you have in Germany, they unearthed some historical things, and that was then a goddess statue, and this looked like it, the fertility goddess, and I thought, I'll have it. So I just kept it, and it's in my living room now. Not that it looks amazing, because it's really vague features, but it's pretty cool to do.
But you're proud of it, otherwise you wouldn't put it up. It's amazing, though.
It's been fun to make.
This is what we don't do often enough, is celebrate our wins, if you like, and what we actually achieve, and something that we're proud of. That's something we don't do enough of, really. But and it's hard. I think it's hard sometimes to actually pat yourself on the back and say, "God, done." I bet you've got that hanging up there now. It's a constant reminder of how proud you are of that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's two things over a long time, but still they're both valuable. And I think you create more in an artful way. At some point you're gonna see that actually what you're making is interesting, it's fun, it's cool. It doesn't have to be a Rembrandt or a Van Gogh, whatever.
No.
Why would you want to make that? It's already been made.
Well, yeah, because when I do a painting, I don't have any idea what I'm going to do. I'm standing over the canvas. I'm very much an intuitive painter, so I've got absolutely no idea where it's going to end up.
Cool.
I kind of just spend some time texturing the canvas. I've got various things that I texture it with and let that dry. And then when it's dried out, I will literally just hold it up, look at it at different angles, turn it around. And sometimes I see an image emerging in the shape. I see something coming out and I kind of just go with it. I pick my colour palette. So I'll probably have 3 or 4 colours and I'll intermix those to create whatever. And I love that. I just love the no rules about it. I can do whatever I want. And who is anybody else to say that it isn't art? I'm happy doing it and I'm happy with how it turns out usually. But yeah, I mean, and I that's how I do it. I paint very intuitively, and I always, before I start any painting, I literally meditate on the canvas. I have my hands on my canvas, and I just stand there, and I'll be with that until words pop into my head, and I need at least 3 words. It could be, it could be anything like ascension, spiritual, whatever word. It's whatever word pops into my head. It could be empowerment or anything. And I actually paint those words onto the canvas before I start the painting so that they are underneath that painting. You won't see them when it's painted, but they're there. And that's what inspires my painting. And I just go with it. And then I stand back and I'm like, yeah, that needs something and this and that. And I use all sorts. I will use, apart from the usual brush and what have you, I like to use things in it, like, I've done shapes of stencils in there or add a bit of collage in there. It's whatever I feel I want to do. Anything goes, really. And that's why I love it. It's so random and it's very much a try that. Why not? Do it. See how it ends up. And I love that creative. Well, I was going to say creative direction, but there's no direction to it at all. I just like
creative
creating.
Process.
Yeah.
Well, I do get that because for me, the knitting and crochet projects, they are about the process, not about the end result. I actually, towards the end, I start to hesitate a bit with finishing it. So I have quite some unfinished projects at times, just because I don't want to finish it. So I really have to think about, yes, let's finish this and start a new project. But I start the new project before I finish it, because otherwise it just doesn't feel right to finish it because I don't have something like it. It's a really interesting thing that it's for me really about the process, not about the end result. The end result, at some point I have this thing of, okay, I've made this, now what? So then I ask the kids, do you guys have any use for this? It's just about making it. It's not about anything else.
Yeah. I've usually got a couple on the go. And this last one I finished it took me ages to get it finished. I'm to other people it looked finished. I thought, no, there's something missing for me, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And it took seeing something else that really inspired me. I thought, right, I know what it needs. Now it's finished, and I was able to put it to bed then, kind of thing. And it's just knowing. My thing is knowing when to stop, because you could keep just dabbling and dabbling and adding.
Yeah.
So you probably end up ruining it.
Yeah, I don't have that with the project. Socks are socks. Although you can do all sorts of funny things with socks as well. I've realized I've done so many.
Yeah, you could be knitting in archive patterns and all sorts. Yeah.
I've done quite some things. Yeah. So your art, would you say that that's predominantly abstract or any different thing? What is it like?
when I first started opening up a lot more and really going for it on a canvas with colour and content, it was people, not anybody I knew. It's all in my head.
Yeah.
If I had a vision of a somebody with dark hair, paint somebody with dark hair, but I'm not doing it. It's not from anybody I know. It's just created.
Mm-hmm.
So it does look very spiritual and goddess-like. I don't know how else to describe it. It's an acquired taste for sure. It's not something everybody could hang on their wall. But I hang it on my wall, obviously. but but yeah, but also some of it is abstract as well. You know, when I've textured it and I just do things and I literally just go with the flow. I mean, yes, some of it's very abstract. Some of it you can see what it is. I don't have any rules, as I say, and it just kind of flows.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones with my faces in, I'm fairly proud of. Yeah. It usually gets a good reaction, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me
Yeah.
of a time where I had some therapy for traumatic things, where the therapist suggested that I would paint my emotions or draw my emotions, however I wanted to do it, but
Yeah.
use art
Yeah.
to put my emotions on paper. And because initially her suggestion was journaling, and I have a huge resistance to journaling for some reason. I try and then it just doesn't work. But putting some form of art
Yeah.
onto paper with my
Yeah.
emotions, it
Yeah.
really worked. It was actually quite nice to do because it was very releasing. So
Yes.
it was a lot of tears that I put on there, to be fair. But
Yeah.
they were also in different colors. And that was the interesting thing. So some were like more water type color for my tears, and others were more green because they were the nauseous tears. And so
Yeah.
I had so many
Yeah, the
different.
colours mean something. Yeah, you can feel the colours. You can feel the
Yes,
colours.
yeah,
For
it was
sure. Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. I can actually relate to that because I've got one painting in particular that I did 3 years ago. And it is a very special painting to me because sadly at that time I'd just lost my brother.
Oh.
And I got the canvas out, and again, as I said, this was my release, and I did the whole painting through misty. I cried buckets the whole time I was
Mm-hmm.
painting. I could barely see what I was doing half the time, but
Mm-hmm.
I also see that as getting it all out.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it certainly, I use this phrase quite a lot, but you've got to feel it to heal it. Keeping it all inside is not good. So to let it out in whatever form it takes for you,
Yeah.
it's so important. So for my well-being, that was essential at that
Mm-hmm.
time, and it helped me process it because it was
Yes.
a shock.
Yes.
So it was I suppose it was even that as well that really highlighted to me how I looked on art. It
Mm-hmm.
was definitely my release and my ability to open up because
Yeah.
without that, or without the self-development I'd done for myself,
Mm-hmm.
I might not have been able to process it in quite the way that I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
um and like we said before, there are many layers to
Mm-hmm.
healing. It's not you do something once and you feel like, well, hey, here I am, much better. It's not like that. And it's a bit of a discipline, I suppose. You've got to keep with it, because on the other side of that, it's acceptance, being able to get on with your life with a level
Mm-hmm.
of acceptance. And with healing doesn't mean you forget them.
No.
It just means you can live with it better.
Yeah. Yeah. I found that with difficult situations, difficult things, very traumatic things that happen, it's first the awareness that you need to have that
Yeah.
that hit me hard. Then you go to the point of you have to accept that this has happened and it won't change. It just
Yeah.
is. Also, in many cases, because you know the forgiveness, because sometimes people hurt you, but even when someone you love dies, you do feel really angry about it frequently, especially when it was someone who was quite young. How sometimes it's been an accident. How could you have done that? So the forgiveness needs to be there, even when
Yeah,
they had no fault in it. There's still this anger frequently, and then
yeah,
the forgiveness towards yourself of how you feel about it and stuff like that.
yeah,
And from there on, the
yeah,
healing start happening.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Takes a couple of
It's such a
steps.
mixture of emotions when you go through
It
something
is.
like that.
Oh,
Very
it's
conflicting. It's very confusing.
yeah,
You know, you're allowed to to grieve and have happy moments at the same time. One
yeah,
doesn't negate the other.
yeah.
And it's known it's okay to be that. You can be
Yes,
this and that, not this or that. You know, it's okay to be both.
yep. It's one of
That's
those
something I
things
really
with
learned.
people going through divorce also, that they grieve, but then they have a good time and feel guilty about having a good time and
Yeah,
anything. But no, you're supposed to, because you can't grieve for the rest of your life. Life does go on,
so,
and
yeah,
losing a parent, losing a sibling, losing a partner, losing a child,
yeah,
even, it's
yeah,
hard. It's really, really hard. But
yeah,
there are going to be nice times in life again, and life does go on.
yeah,
And none of
yeah.
them, when people die, they don't want you to grieve for the rest of your life. They want you to
No,
continue.
absolutely. Yeah,
There would
yeah.
be no life otherwise.
And equally, I know I've touched on the negative parts of trauma, like you know, like you say, the death of loved ones, or you know, whether it's divorce, whatever. But equally, you get joyous moments that produce good work as well. It's not all about
No.
releasing pain. It's about releasing the joy as well. So
Hmm.
let's just highlight that too. It's not all doom and
Yes,
gloom. It's all very
that's
much
definitely true. Yep.
the joyous things in life as
Mhm.
well. Which
Yep.
and once you got the joy, that's when the creativity flows more, and
Mhm.
it's like, ooh, what else can I try? You know,
Yeah.
and it's all a release, whether it's something traumatic or just joy and pure
Mhm.
creativity and aliveness, really. You know,
Yeah,
that's equally important.
yeah. I even think that, to a certain extent, photography, because when you see how beautifully some people take pictures of things, like a
Yeah,
flower or a baby or a dog or a
yeah,
cat or whatever animal or something, or some deer in the woods, that can be such a creative thing as well. And it's
yeah,
much quicker than a painting, I think, but still there's a
yeah.
lot in there too. And there you can go with all the emotions as well.
Well, yes, yeah. But it wouldn't surprise you to learn then that I'm also a very keen photographer as well. To add that one in.
Makes total sense. When you're into pictures of sorts, then
Yeah,
photography and
yeah. It's
painting will
kind of,
both be
you
good.
know, all sorts of different creative little things. You forget,
Mm.
don't you? Because you dip in and out of things, and
Yes.
um, it makes up who you are as a person. That you do sort of take it for granted a bit that
Yeah.
what you do.
Yeah,
Um,
over the years I've done all sorts of different things. The
mm,
mainstays have been the knitting and crochet, but I've done
yeah,
some drawing, I've done, what have I all done? I've done so many different things. The spinning is one. Spinning, knitting, and crochet are the mainstays, but weaving I've done as well, because that was really cool. A
wow,
silk painting, I thought that was amazing as well. And
yeah.
these tie-dye things, all that kind of stuff.
Oh
I
gosh,
like
yeah.
doing.
Very
Yeah,
creative. Yeah,
anything that
yeah. Good fun.
it's just fun to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
and even at
Well, finding
times,
your fun thing. Oh,
yeah, yeah, and it's also, I like doing these kind of things with my kids as well, because they love stuff like
yeah.
that just as much.
Mm,
So it's just fun to do. And yes, it's a very good outlet for any emotions that we may have,
mm, mm,
whether it's
yeah,
massive joy or
yeah,
grieving or anything in
yeah.
between around it. Yeah.
And of course, the more joyous moments we have, it leaves less room for the not so joyous things coming into your head. So,
Yes, you do.
yeah, it all helps the general well-being.
Yeah.
And one I will always have in my life, I feel, art.
Mhm.
Something that's really important to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
More so now, I'd say. You know.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, I find it really important. I definitely have
mm,
all sorts of things
yeah,
going on all the time, just because it's fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That got us a bit quiet, which is not a bad thing because,
It's a moment to reflect.
yeah. Well, the thing is, we've also been already talking for a good 20 minutes now. So,
Really, gosh, that flew.
yes. Yes, I
Yeah.
paid attention to the time a little bit. You know, when you have these kind of conversations, time
Mm,
does go quite quickly. So, I guess it's time to slowly but carefully end our conversation. Do you have any last things you'd like to tell people watching this?
Well, just as another creative outlet, something that you might be interested to hear about is digital work as well. I mean, that's something, if actually painting with real paints isn't your thing, digital work is quite interesting. You've got an iPencil and an iPad, so many apps that can help you with that. That's a different way again. And another direction I've taken as well with lots of things, and there's lots of things you can do with digital work, from printing it onto T-shirts. Once you've done the drawing, you've got it there. Use on anything, you know. If that's not your thing, then perhaps digital work is. Have a go.
Yep. Some of my kids are doing it, and it's quite cool what they come up with, the drawings. Then.
Yeah. I've done quite a lot with that. Yeah.
Yep.
It's interesting.
It's really cool. I wouldn't know how it works. I'd rather use pencils, and I actually like these watercolor pencils a lot. So to first draw it and then go over it with a water brush, really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they do things where I think, how did you do this? And then they want to explain it to me, and then I think, no, I don't need all the digital knowledge on that. I'm good with just the old school way. So yeah, but they do amazing. You can do so many amazing things, because you can make things look like an oil painting or a watercolor painting.
Oh yeah,
you can.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
the finishes you can get with that. Yeah,
really fascinating.
Yeah, I guess as an end note, it's just highlighting to anyone watching this that try it. Painting's not your thing, and it's not about creating a masterpiece. It's about how it makes you feel doing it. It doesn't matter how it looks. That's just, if it turns out good, that's just a bonus. But I mean, it doesn't matter. It's really not part of it. It's the process that's the important bit. And if painting isn't your thing, then find your thing. Find your thing that does that for you.
Yeah.
Whether it be knitting or painting, digital, anything, playing a musical instrument, it's all there for you to discover and find your inner you.
Yeah. And one of my friends does weaving. The stuff she uses, so she uses very thick things. She uses cut up T-shirts at times. She does, and it's just what feels right for her, and it's for her also release of emotions. It has nothing to do with creating anything cool, but she does create cool stuff quite regularly. So she has some rugs on her.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it cool, because it's so authentic to her.
Yeah, she just does something, and sometimes it's just fiber. Other times it's really, really well spun yarn. Other times it's what she's also done is take T-shirt fabric, cut it up, plait it, and then weave with that. Fabulous, really fabulous what she's creating. Yeah, really cool. So yeah,
excellent.
Yeah, so I want to thank you for joining me today, Kerrie. And
I really enjoyed it.
I found this really cool, because it's really got much more of the art things that I've done in the past in my mind again. I said, oh, I can do that again. Oh, that would be fun again. So
yeah.
I have a question for you. So when viewers or listeners would like to contact you, how can they best do that?
Well, I'm on Facebook, just Kerrie Hitchen on Facebook, and I also have an art page, which is just Kerrie Hitchen Art. I'm on Instagram as well. Again, I've got a couple of different Instagram things. One's just Kerrie Hitchen for my main Instagram page, and Kerrie Hitchen Art for my art stuff. So it's quite straightforward. Facebook and Instagram is mainly my main thing.
All right.
Quite easy to get hold of me on there.
All right, then I'll add the information that you have just shared to the notes. Whichever links will work, we'll put them under there.
Thank you.
Then that's it for today. So
thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.